objection.
Mr. Speaker, while there is talk of a 2-month spending bill to keep the government open before time runs out this week, we have yet to see it. And passing a short-term bill will only postpone a Republican shutdown, not stop it. As long as it remains a possibility, we need to talk about the cost to everyday families. Unlike the last Republican shutdown in 2013, closing the government's doors this time around means millions and millions of Americans may be cut off from their federal food assistance benefits. 45 million Americans rely on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, to help put food on the table. SNAP is our nation's premier anti-hunger program, and it is one of the most effective and efficient of any federal programs. 2/3 of all SNAP recipients are the most vulnerable among us: children, seniors, and the disabled. And millions more are working families who may be working 1, 2, or 3 jobs just to make ends meet, and sometimes it's still not enough. SNAP is a critical program that millions of Americans depend on to keep from going hungry. Mr. Speaker, during the last Republican shutdown in 2013, SNAP had contingency funds available from the stimulus law that meant SNAP benefits continued uninterrupted. But stimulus funding was cut off in November of 2013. So this time around, there's no backup plan for SNAP. Current law prevents the U.S. Department of Agriculture from spending SNAP money it doesn't have. Without congressional action, USDA will be forced to shut off retailers from accepting SNAP benefits within the first few days of October. That means families won't be able to use their SNAP benefits to purchase food at any store that normally accepts SNAP, including grocery stores, big box retailers, and corner stores. Mr. Speaker, it is unfathomable to me that this would happen, that Republicans would threaten the food benefits of tens of millions of American children, families, and seniors, and all just to score political points with their right-wing base. Whether Republicans shut down the government this week or in December, it is unacceptable to leave struggling families out in the cold. As our economy continues to recover, I would remind my colleagues that SNAP is one of the quickest, most effective economic multipliers we have. Every $1 in SNAP benefits generates about $1.70 in economic activity. About 80% of SNAP benefits are redeemed within 2 weeks of receipt, and about 97% are spent within a month. Every day, SNAP pumps money back into our local economies and supports local businesses. And SNAP benefits can only be spent on food, meaning that a family can use its other income to meet its other essential needs, like paying rent, utilities, and medical care. Mr. Speaker, not only would a government shutdown have a devastating impact on hungry families, it has the potential to result in serious economic harm to retailers that could ripple throughout our economy. Already, food banks, food pantries, and soup kitchens are bracing to serve an influx of clients if SNAP benefits are cut off. But despite the incredible work they do, these charities are already overburdened. The demand for food assistance is incredibly high. They are working tirelessly every day to meet the need, and charities are already forced to pick up the slack from an inadequate SNAP benefit. All too often, the benefit runs out before the end of the month, and families must turn to charities just to cobble together enough to eat. I cannot begin to imagine how overwhelmed anti-hunger agencies will be if millions of Americans lose access to SNAP next month or the month after. Unfortunately, in a Republican-controlled Congress with a habit of going from one crisis to the next, this scenario is all too realistic. A government shutdown would literally take food away from hungry Americans. It would be devastating for millions of Americans that are already struggling to put food on the table and make ends meet. Families who rely on SNAP cannot afford to have their food benefits disrupted, even for a day. Mr. Speaker, we should be working to end hunger now, not making hunger worse in this country, the richest country in the world. Quite frankly, it is unconscionable we are even in a situation where millions of hungry people are at risk of losing their food benefit. Last week, Pope Francis delivered an inspiring message to Congress. It is unthinkable that we could so quickly forget his call for compassion and helping the least among us. For millions of American families who are already struggling to put food on the table, we should be giving them a hand up, not taking food away. Nobody in this chamber will go without food if the Republicans shut down the government. None of our kids will go without food. But millions and millions of our fellow citizens will. For the sake of 45 million Americans across the country and more than 700,000 in Massachusetts who depend on SNAP, I urge my Republican colleagues to work with Democrats on a long-term bipartisan budget that puts families first. Families who rely on SNAP shouldn't have to worry about losing their benefits at the end of every short-term funding bill. Whether it's this week or in December, our most vulnerable families simply cannot afford another Republican shutdown.